Hi YouTube, Alan again. Welcome to the second video of the building of my Prusa i3. If you haven't seen the first video of this build, click the link right here and go watch it. In this video, we'll be covering steps 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the Sunhokey Prusa i3. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about the build, please leave them in the comments below. Welcome to part 3. This will be the build of the Carriage. For this, we'll need 2 acrylic parts, 2 short slider blocks, 2 printed pieces, 1 fan, 7 M3 by 16mm screws, 8 M4 by 12mm screws, 7 M3 nuts, 1 hot end attachment, and 1 hot end. So let's get started. So I've already taken the plastic off the 2 acrylic pieces. If you'll notice on this one, there's an arrow pointing downwards. That's down towards the heat bed. So we're just going to attach on the slider blocks now. I'm going to leave these a little loose just so I can straighten them up later. So now those are loosely snugged on, I will put on the other acrylic piece and secure that on with a screw and a nut. So there we have that. Now we'll mount the hot end on, and for this we need the hot end, obviously, the attachment flange, 2 M3 by 16mm screws, and 2 M3 nuts. So in this case the M3 screws just go down to the holes and through the attachment flange and get attached with a nut. Snug these up here. Try to keep it even so it's not pulled to one side, so it remains straight up and down. There we have the hot end attached. And finally, we'll put on the cooling fan. The cooling fan will cool down the cold section of the hot end to keep the filament from melting until it gets to the melt zone. I'm assuming that this is the front of the fan with the sticker, although if I get it wrong, I'll just have to flip it later. So we take our screws and nuts. They're not long enough. Apparently I have the wrong size nuts, so I'll have to come back with the right ones. So I'm back again. I just consulted the directional videos put out by Sunhokey, and it turns out that I had the fan the wrong way around. So these are the right length screws. So you do need 4 M3 by 16mm screws for this part. Just the correct way has the dimples in the side of the fan, so they fit in deeper and will go all the way through the printed part. So I'm just going to mount those on now. Now secure these printed parts to the acrylic frame so the fan will hang in front of the hot end. So there we have it. The Carriage with mounted hot end and fan. Welcome to part 4. In this part, we'll need 6 acrylic pieces, 2 stepper motors, 8 M3 by 10mm screws, 4 M3 by 16mm screws, and 4 M3 nuts. I will note that these triangle pieces here, there is a short and a long side to them, so make sure that you don't mix that up when trying to put it all together. So now that we've peeled the plastic off of the acrylic pieces, we can take a look at them. So these two are identical, and these 4 pieces are identical. What we do want to note with this is this extra hole. I have both right now on the right side of the part, but this extra hole is for the linear rod for the Z-axis. We want to flip one of them over so that one's on the left and one's on the right. With these triangular pieces, there's a longer side and a shorter side, so the longer side and the shorter side, and the longer side goes in like this. So I'm just going to put all these on here, and then screw them together as per usual. So now we mount the servo motors. They just get mounted much the same as the first one did, with 4 M3 by 10mm screws each. And that completes part 4, the installation of the 2 Z stepper motors. Welcome to part 5 of the build. For this part, we'll need 2 acrylic pieces, 3 short slider blocks, 12 M4 by 12mm bolts, 1 M3 by 16mm bolt, and 1 M3 nut. So let's get started, once again, with peeling the plastic off of the acrylic parts. We will be building the Y-carriage of the 3D printer, on top of which the heated bed will be mounted. Now on this side, you want to only lightly tighten up both slider blocks, as we're going to use a linear rail to make sure that they're aligned with one another before tightening them up. So I'm just going to take a linear rod and run it through the first one and gently press it to the second. Make sure that they line up. Loosen these a little bit. That's pretty good there, so we'll just snug these up again. I do want to talk about this piece a little bit. This is where the belt attaches to the Y-carriage. So right here we have some teeth in each side here. where it will engage the belt. And we have to be very careful with this, as any lateral movement right here and right here could snap these parts off pretty easily. And then it becomes very difficult to attach the belt. Hybosin had a very nice video where he showed how to fix this if you have a problem and you do crack this. But this is one piece that is quite brittle, and so, but also very important. Welcome to part 6. For this part, we're going to assemble the Y-axis belt idler. So what we have is 4 acrylic parts, 2 bearings, 2 M5 washers, 1 spring, 1 flange nut, 1 M5 by 25mm screw, 1 M5 nut, 1 M3 by 30mm screw, 2 M3 by 25mm screws, 2 M3 nuts, and 12 M3 washers. Now that we have our parts all de-filmed, we'll start putting it together. This will go together much the same way as the YAxis belt idler did in part 2. Note that these bearings do have a lip on one side, so you want to have those outwards so that it makes a channel in the middle, as you can see there, for the belt to ride on. Now we just want to snug them up to make sure that everything's tight, but not so tight that the bearings don't spin anymore. Now we'll take our large acrylic piece, and this ends up actually as the front of the 3D printer. We'll put our spring onto our long M3 by 30mm screw, and then guide everything through the hole. And attach the flange nut on the outside. And this brings us to the end of part 6. So we have a completed Y-axis belt idler with tensioner adjustment ability.